The technique used to separate a mixture of liquids is called distillation. In an oil refinery, distillation is used to separate crude oil into different fuels like propane, natural gas, gasoline, and diesel fuel. Mineral spirits is just distilled gasoline. Distillation is extremely common in chemistry and in the production of various flavoring compounds and medicines, as well as a useful way to extract naturally occurring compounds. In this lab, we'll learn how to do a distillation. The materials that you'll need is some glassware that includes a 500 milliliter and a 250 milliliter round bottom flask, so you'll have two of those. A condenser, a three-way connector with a thermometer, a glass adapter, and two rubber hoses. You'll also need two ring stands, two rubber clamps, a ring with a ceramic dish. It must have the ceramic still on it because the direct flame can break the glass, and you'll need a Bunsen burner. We'll start with a colored ionic solution. We can test for the presence of ions using a conductivity sensor. We'll use this to confirm that our distillation worked. So first, collect 200 milliliters of the colored solution for the distillation. Then set up your ring stand with the ring at the appropriate height for the Bunsen burner. Use the clamps to hold the 500 milliliter round bottom flask and set it on the ceramic plate. It should be pushing down into the plate so that there is a good contact between the ceramic and the glass. Pour the colored solution into the flask along with some boiling chips. These will help the solution to boil smoothly. Put the three-way connector into the flask and use a clip to secure the connection. The green clips will hold the joints firmly together. Attach the condenser to the three-way clamp and put another clip on the joint. Then use the other ring stand and clamp to hold the condenser in place. This should be secure because we don't want the condenser pulling down on our three-way valve because it could just break the glass. Finally, attach the adapter and then the 250 milliliter receiving flask. This is where we'll collect the distillate, which will be pure water. Place the thermometer in the three-way valve. It should sit just below the joint to read the temperature of the vapor. Often, this is how the identity of different gases is determined during a distillation that has multiple materials that are being carried over. Attach the rubber hoses. The first rubber hose should go from the lower opening to the faucet. The second rubber hose should go from the top opening of the condenser down to the sink where it will let the water out. We always want our coldest water coming into the front of the condenser. Turn on the water from the sink to have it flow through the condenser. This will cool down our vapor and turn it back into a liquid, giving us a pure liquid. Light the Bunsen burner. Make sure that your flame is at the right height and place it under the ceramic disc to let the distillation begin. The water should begin to boil within a few minutes. We'll let this system run for about 20 minutes. So the mixture we have here is water, salt, and food coloring. As the mixture heats up, the water boils right around 100 degrees Celsius, but the salt and the food coloring won't, so they'll just stay in that flask. Notice how the boiling stones help the boiling stay smooth and consistent. If they weren't there, then the mixture would have giant bursting bubbles that could bump and shake the whole apparatus, potentially breaking something. As the water boils, it turns to steam and travels into the condenser, where it gets cooled back down to become water. As that water boils, it's turning into a gas, turning to steam, and it's being separated from the salt and the food coloring. So by the time it reaches the condenser, it has been separated from the salt and the food coloring, and it'll turn back to water without either of those in it, and it'll drip out of the adapter and into the receiving flask as pure, clean water. This is how distilled water is made, and it's a useful way to get fresh water from potentially harmful sources. Distillation is a very common technique in chemistry. It's used to separate gasoline into the 20-some different chemicals that are in it, like hexane, octane, and cyclopentane. For obvious reasons, our first distillation isn't working with a flammable substance. After about 20 minutes, you should have collected near 100 milliliters of water. So turn off the Bunsen burner and remove the receiving flask. Pour the purified water into a beaker and test the conductivity to see if the water is pure or not. A red light means that there are ions present. Then, carefully take apart your distillation setup and put everything away.